who's the biggest bang for your buck in the Premier League right now? Because obviously you've done a lot of research on different players who have been either promoted into the Premier League, signed from other leagues, or are maybe just like growing into their team a little bit more that might not be rated super highly on the pricing scale, but might deliver really well this season.
Or not even being talked about in the other FPL people in like media, social media.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, there are some that are really being talked about that are, again, underrated, underpriced. One of the people everybody's talking about is Pedro Nado, because he's only 5'5" as a midfielder. And I think because he came off an injury and really just got back towards the end of last year, he may be their best attacking player if he's fully healthy. So that's a really cheap price to get a midfielder for. I'm not a huge fan of Wolves, but, I think that's a good one. A couple transfers that all of a sudden became great players, if nothing else, to have sub on for you that we're not going to play would be like Nico Williams. I mean, so him going to Forest, I think all of a sudden you have him starting. I believe that's where he went.
Yeah.
And then Andreas to Fulham. I mean, I believe he's going to be a starting midfielder, and you can get them for $4 and $4.5 million. So that's the cheapest cost. And basically you've got a starter. So probably more bench for them. I mean, the other players, I would say the goalkeepers, they dropped the price for goalkeepers. So, you used to have all these 6 million goalkeepers. Now you can get, Allison, you can get Ederson for 5.5, you can get Mendy for 5, and Chelsea has a great run of fixtures to start the season. So I think the goalkeepers are actually all very good, very well priced. And even though 60% of teams have him, I think Gabe Jesus at 8 million is an absolute steal. They underpriced him, and in preseason, he just looks like everything is going to go through him.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have Gabe Jesus on your team, I think you could be in trouble, because I think he could break out, and it's going to be Martinelli and Saka just feeding Gabe Jesus, and he could have a breakout season this year. So that's
I'm starting to get really worried right now.
I put him in there.
But I think he's one that I'd have a hard time staying away from. So other transfers, I like Zinchenko. I think, if you have Zinchenko starting for Arsenal, and he's either playing as a wing back or even up in midfield, I mean, when you watch him, playing in Europe, and when you watch him playing in World Cups, I mean, he's such a talented national player that I think Arsenal could be a really good team for him. So I think there's an argument to triple up on 3 players on Arsenal. Martinelli, the same. Martinelli's pretty cheap, and he's talented. And if he gets a starting role this next year, I think his goal scoring ability and his ability to pass to Gabe Jesus, that's another one where, I know Paul's going to love that comment, but I
Paul
think
indeed will.
Yeah.
Yes, he will. And the other ones, if I go to my favorite team and your favorite team, I know not Max, Brighton, I think Undav, if I pronounce that correctly, he kind of blew it up. I think in the Belgium league is where he was.
He was in the Belgium league.
So, there's going to be a drop off, but if he gets time and a starting role and he can get in front of Mape and get a lot of time, I think he could be a good shout. Cucurella, if he stays for Brighton, I think he's a good shout. But if he goes to Man City, I'd stay away from him. I think, if you look at Fulham, Mitrovic, not to start the season because they don't have a great run of fixtures, but I think eventually if he can do anything close to what he did in the championship, he could be a great call for this year too. So, I mean, those are just some that I would look at as being lower priced and probably more bang for your buck, but it's always a gamble.